Hello, Annabees in the field. What is going on? I lost one of you while being a minute or two late. Sorry about that. You know how it is. I try so hard to be on time. I just have so much trouble, you know, getting all of things done that I'm trying to get done and then not having them get undone. And then trying to find the puppy so that the puppy can star in the beginning of my video. Is she so sweet? Oh my goodness. Let's see if she'll just like fall asleep in my lap and I can hold her the whole time. Wouldn't that be nice? How are you, Fred? And how are you, Annabees? I love that. Sitting by. That's funny. So, what a wackadoodle time we're living through, politically as well as everything else. It is March 26th. It's just about almost 2:20 in the afternoon. And your baby is so cute. I know, isn't she? So, she's the little cheese. That's actually her name. I didn't tell it to you guys yesterday because I don't like it. I don't think it's very cute. But then when I thought big cheese, little cheese, I thought, okay. Hey, Christine. So, yeah, this is Cheese. I think her name should be Daffodil or something more along those lines. Daisy, even Flower or Baby Rue. Man, her little heartbeat on my hand. It's like she's having a heart attack. Good day to Fred and Jazz, and to you, Christine. How are you guys? So I just want to sit here and hold this puppy dog, drink some water, and get ready to read something to you. Is the lighting doing better? I'm trying to make it so that I'm less red and less pink, but you can still see me. Because let me show you the last one that I'm messing with. It makes it a lot more red. That's terrible, isn't it? Terrible. I'm going to turn that off again. Okay. But now, like this, am I too blue or green or I don't know? Like sometimes you robot more, I've noticed, if your lighting is a little bit low. So I'll just go with it and see how it goes. So let me see if I can do this both at the same time. I'm reading to you something from the Associated Press that was just put out. Actually, it was put out a couple years ago, 3 to be exact. But what was just put out was a statement by our El Presidente last night, bringing up this name I had not heard in a long time. And it surprised me that I couldn't even recall. Like, I'm like, Ashley Babbitt? I know that name. Who's Ashley Babbitt? I had to Google it to remind myself. She's going to be in the news a lot more. For anyone who doesn't remember, she was the wild woman who got pew-pewed at the insurrection when she was specifically attacking a section of the Capitol where Mike Pence was known to be, and they were trying to find him so that they could hang him. So there's a $30 million lawsuit from her husband against our country. So we might end up having to pay her family a whole lot of money. And then we've got this president who wants to put her on this pedestal and say she's a martyr when she had a criminal past, a severe criminal past, like domestic violence, scary stuff. So let me start out with all the regular normal stuff. Please hit that like button if you don't mind. And make sure that you're still subscribed if you are subscribed. And if you're not, please consider doing so. It's free. There's no commitment. Helps the channel. Helps the algorithm. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like it. Turn on your notification bell to ring if you want to be notified when I'm coming on live or dropping a video. This is the newest addition to my set, Livestock. She's not mine. Thank goodness, because she's a full-time job 24/7. And I've done enough of that with 4 kids and 3 dogs, 3 cats. And, you know, my YouTube, That's kind of like having a baby too, if you want to tend to it every day. And there's a lot of details. Anyway, I love it. I love my YouTube. I love my YouTubing, as I like to say. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. All my videos are made for this YouTube channel, and it's an entertainment platform. Really therapeutic for me. It's like YouTube therapy. So is it like group therapy maybe? I don't know. Because it's all about me. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, that's why I like to come on live, because I love your input. I love this to be about all of us. I mean, I did not expect when I started my YouTube channel that it really is about building a community, you guys. It's crazy sounding, but it's so true. Oh, a little puppy community. She's like, yeah, I want a community of puppy dogs to run around and play with. I'll let her go so that she can find her little puppy family here. One sec. Can I let her out? You guys, I'm letting puppy out. I knew that was going to happen, but I'm not going to complain. When they got that puppy on Friday, they being my son's girlfriend, it's her dog, but he was with her, and I thought, this is going to end up being my grandbaby. Not going to complain. She's adorable, isn't she? Okay, so I want to read this article to you. Like I said, this was published back in January of 2022, but I was looking for more information about Ashley Babbitt because of the court date is scheduled for July of this year. And the person who's in office, I think there's a possibility that they could get 30 million gazillion for wrongful death. But I think that's insane because of what she did. And, the officer who was protecting the Capitol and everyone in it, that pulled the trigger, that she succumbed to that wound fatally. He's been investigated and cleared of any and all wrongdoing, which I'm sure the current administration will try to overturn. At the events of the last few days, and they keep making it worse for themselves, you guys. I don't know if watching this train wreckage just careening out of control, just spiraling, just like the universe is exploding. For the Republican Party, it is. For the current administration, in my opinion, they're all toast. Every single person in that little Signal chat group, every single one of them will go down, in my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. I don't think any of them can survive. If it was the real world without the current administration, that would be without question. And because of the current administration, it might take a long time, but it's happening. And you can see it in their faces. They know what's coming. They know they're all getting the axe. Again, it's just a matter of time. And who's going to go first? My guess is Hegseth. It might be Waltz. So there is a difference with Mike Waltz has the T and the L and the Z. And then Tim Walz has no T, but it seems like it should, right? It's harder to say Walls than it is Waltz. Anyway, that's just me. Back on point. Let's read this. And I've got a lot of notes too. So I like to get the things that I'm reading out of the way when I've got something printed out. So this is called Ashley Babbitt, a Martyr. And this to me was really educational. So I hope you find some great value in it too. Let me see if Coco needs to get away from the puppy. One sec. Come on, Coco. She's like, please let me in to where it's nice and quiet. I can only take so much of the little crazy baby. All right. Oh, and I've got no hat on, so I don't have to worry about you guys not being able to see my eyes. But I like to try to like look up when I'm reading, but also get the light on it so I can see the letters. Let's see how this goes. Anna B's, I am roboting because I said some names. I think they will all suffer the consequences of their actions in this current administration, even including Big E and little t. Eventually, I agree with you 100%. And yeah, I noticed that my video that roboted and I had to get a new stream, I noticed that that went dead when I said the Hamburglar name, which is why when I came back on, I tried to not say the Hamburglar name because I don't think that that's a coincidence. I don't think it was just technical difficulties, but let's just see if I can read this and get some good lighting on it and be able to look up so that I'm not, you know, ignoring you guys and being rude. Now I have something in my eye, of course. Okay. For the first time, Celeste Norris laid eyes on Ashley Babbitt. Celeste Norris, someone that we've never heard of. The future insurrectionist had just rammed her vehicle 3 times with an SUV and was pounding on the window, challenging her to a fight. Norris says the bad blood between them began in 2015 when Babbitt engaged in a months-long extramarital affair with Norris's longtime live-in boyfriend. When Norris learned of the relationship, she called Babbitt's husband and told him that Babbitt was cheating on him. She pulls up, yelling and screaming, Norris said in an exclusive interview with the Associated Press, recounting the July 29th, 2016 road rage incident in Prince Frederick, Maryland. This is crazy, you guys. I mean, this is why domestic violence needs to be handled more appropriately. She should have been charged with attempted red rum, in my opinion, to ram into a car 3 times with an SUV. Okay, anyway, it took me a good 30 seconds to figure out who she was. Just all sorts of expletives telling me to get out of the car, that she was going to beat my hiney. Terrified and confused, Norris dialed 911 and waited for law enforcement. Babbitt was later charged with numerous misdemeanors. I'm sure she had some expensive attorney and knew a lot of people from her professional career and pulled a lot of strings. Because if, let's say, a person who was of color did that, they'd be in prison, in my opinion. Okay. Let's see, where are we at with this? Numerous misdemeanors. The attack on Norris is an example of erratic and sometimes threatening behavior. And some damn ad printed over a few of these words, so I'll just have to read around it. I can't believe that. Man, I hate the ads. It's just a little bit. It's like so small, but it's so annoying. The attack on Norris is an example of erratic and sometimes threatening behavior by a police officer at the vanguard of the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. So we know that she was shot, is probably what it says, by a police officer. His supporters have sought to portray her, and that's little t's supporters have sought to portray her as a righteous martyr. So he just brought her up again yesterday as the righteous martyr. And little t has called her an incredible person, quote unquote, and even tapped a posthumous birthday message in the following October after the insurrection. And little t also demanded that the Justice Department reinvestigate the law enforcement officer who shot her, since he was cleared of any wrongdoing by 2 prior federal investigations, not 1 but 2. Babbitt 35 was, and you guys have probably seen the videotape, right? I know this from experience. Anna B says, I don't think it was a coincidence either. You're absolutely right. Any person of color stopped by police are always in danger, right? Even if they didn't do anything, right? It's awful. So Babbitt was 35 fatally shot while attempting to climb through a broken window of a barricaded door leading to the speaker's lobby inside the Capitol, where police officers were evacuating members of Congress from the mob supporting Little T's false claim that the 2020 presidential election was stolen. She was one of 5 people who passed during or immediately after the riot, including a Capitol police officer. That's Brian Sicknick. On social media, Babbitt identified as a libertarian and ardent supporter of the Second Amendment. Her post included videos of profane rants against Democrats, COVID-19 mask mandates, and illegal immigration. Her Twitter account, which was taken down after her passing, was rife with references to the QAnon conspiracy theory. Shocking, right? Which centers on the baseless belief that Little T has secretly battled deep state enemies and a cabal of Titanic worshiping cannibals that includes prominent Democrats who operate a child Rex trafficking ring. Nothing will stop us, Babbitt tweeted on January 5th. So she drove from Southern California to Los Angeles, no, San Diego, I think. But I know Southern California, she drove to Washington, D.C. for the insurrection. And she was probably tweeting while driving. I'm just going to take a wild guess. I know I've seen videos that she made of herself while she was driving, just ranting and raving. They're probably scrubbed by now because they make her look like the nut job that she was. She was coming undone. She was probably in a manic episode. Sad. Nothing will stop us, Babbitt tweeted January 6th. They can try and try and try, but the storm is here and it is descending upon DC in less than 24 hours. Dark to light. Key to that wrongful death claim is the contention that Babbitt, a former military police officer who was 5'2" and weighed 115 pounds, would have peacefully surrendered had Capitol officers attempted to arrest her. I remember the video of them saying, "Stop, stop, stop, we're going to shoot." They gave much warning to her and the people right there. They did not want to shoot, but they had no choice. She probably thought because she was 5'2" and a woman and pretty that she could, do whatever she wanted. Have her way. Aaron Babbitt declined to comment. So I wonder if this is the same person that she was married to when that other person let her husband know that she was cheating on him. I wonder if it's the same husband. I'll have to look into that. Aaron Babbitt declined to comment in October when a reporter knocked on the door of the San Diego apartment he shared with Ashley and another woman. Well, that's not so weird, I guess. It's expensive to live in Southern California. And maybe it's like a relative or something. I don't know. Maybe they were having something hinky going on, something kinky. Who knows? Anyway, on with the show. Maybe it was one of their relatives. In a June interview with Tucker Carlson of Fox News, Babbitt said he had been sickened by some of what he has seen written about his deceased wife. There's never been a person who Ashley ran across in her daily life that didn't love her, said Babbitt, 40. That is not how Norris felt about her. Court records involving the violent 2016 confrontation between Babbitt and Norris have previously been reported by media outlets, including the AP, but Norris, now 39, agreed to speak about it publicly for the first time in an interview with the Associated Press and shared previously unreported details. She also provided documents and photos from the crash scene to support her account. Norris was in a 6-year relationship with Aaron Babbitt when wait a second. Norris was in a 6-year relationship with, I think, the guy that she was in a relationship with. Hold on. I didn't catch that error earlier. If it is an error, I'm just going to read it the way they have it written. Norris was in a 6-year relationship with Aaron Babbitt when she said she learned he was cheating on her with a married coworker from his job as a security guard at a nuclear power plant near the Chesapeake Bay. She eventually found out the other woman was Ashley McEntee, who at the time went by the last name of her then husband. Okay. But wait, I don't think Norris was in the relationship with Aaron Babbitt. I think that's incorrect. I think that they made a mistake there. We'll see. He was telling me about this foul-mouthed chick that's on his shift, blah, 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 Norris recounted. Come to find out a few months later, they were basically having this relationship while they were at work. When she learned of the affair, she reached out to Babbitt's husband, Timothy. Oh, wait a second. She was living with the guy that's then married Babbitt after all this happened. So then Babbitt took his last name. So that probably was not an error. Norris was in it. I'm going to reread it. That's crazy. I missed how crazy that was. Are you guys blown away? I am freaking blown away. Okay, I got to go back just that one paragraph. Norris was in a 6-year relationship with Aaron Babbitt when she said she'd learned he was cheating on her with a married coworker from his job as a security guard at a nuclear power plant near the Chesapeake Bay. She eventually found out the other woman was Ashley McEntee, who at the time went by the last name of her then husband. He was telling me about this foul-mouthed chick that's on his shift, blah, 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 Norris recounted. Come to find out, a few months later, they were basically having this relationship while they were at work. When she learned of the affair, she reached out to Babbitt's husband, Timothy McEntee, I think is how you say it, MCENTT. MCENTEE. I was trying to keep my home life together, she said. Norris said she tried for a few months to salvage her relationship with Aaron Babbitt before she finally decided to move out of their house. Within days, Norris said, Ashley moved in. Wow. See, I just scanned all this. Obviously, I missed some massive details. A few weeks later, Norris was waiting at a stop sign in Prince Frederick, about an hour southeast of Washington, D.C., when she says a white Ford Explorer passed her going the other direction. Norris saw the SUV pulling a U-turn before speeding up behind her. She recounts that the SUV's driver began swerving erratically, laying on the horn, attempting to pass a Chevrolet Suburban that was in between them on the narrow 2-lane road. When the driver of the Chevy pulled over, Norris said the white Ford SUV accelerated and rammed into her rear bumper. She said the SUV rammed her a second time and then a third, all while the vehicles continued to roll down the road. After Norris dialed 911, an emergency dispatcher advised her to pull over to the shoulder and stop. As she waited for help, Babbitt got out of her vehicle, came up to Norris's driver's side window, banging on the glass. Norris said the force of the impact caused her seatbelt to lock tight, preventing her from getting out of her car. Within minutes, deputies arrived. A case report from the Calvert County Sheriff's Office obtained by the Associated Press shows Ashley was issued a criminal summons on charges of reckless endangerment. I think that should be attempted red rum. A misdemeanor defined law as engaging in conduct that creates a substantial risk of death or serious physical injury to another. But a car is a deadly weapon when you use a weapon. But Ashley was active duty, I think, in the military at the time. So they don't want their active duty officers to look like lunatics just because they're acting like lunatics, right? So they're going to downplay it. And then that part of what I believe is a cover up ended up costing her her life. No. Okay. Punish. Okay. It's a, potential risk of death or serious physical injury to another and punishable by up to 5 years in prison and $5,000 fine. She was also charged with malicious destruction of property for the damage to Norris's vehicle. Court records show those charges were later updated to include traffic violations, dangerous driving, and failure to control a vehicle's speed to avoid a collision. Photos from the scene provided to the Associated Press by Norris showed Babbitt's vehicle smashed in. The SUV's grille is also pushed in and the hood dented. The rear is pushed in on the passenger side and detached Maryland's license plate with Babbitt's SUV wedged into it. So there are parts of that were covered. I apologize. Man, that's annoying AF. This is just from my laptop. So, I did not see these ridiculous ads covering this article because I read it while it was on my gadget. Yeah, it was on my laptop, not my phone, because my phone's not hooked up to my printer right now. And it wasn't there. I was able to read through the whole thing. It's so annoying. Anyway, I'll put a copy or a link to this in the description. So if you want to see the parts of the paragraphs that got chopped out, you can read the whole thing. This is going to be hard to read. This, following the altercation, she lived at the time, Ashley Babbitt, resulting judicial orders, further acts of violence against her, a copy of the order, account of what occurred, couldn't write down what happened for herself, according to a note on the document. So that was all partially blocked. Apologies. In the weeks after the incident, Norris said Babbitt falsely claimed to authorities that the collision had occurred when Norris repeatedly backed her vehicle into Babbitt's SUV. What a brazen biatch. But when the case went to trial, Norris said Babbitt changed her story, admitting under oath that she had collided with Norris's vehicle, but portraying it as an accident. Yeah, a 3-time accident. No transcript from the hearing was available. Isn't that interesting? No transcript from the hearing was available. See, because that's, in my opinion, that's the military trying to cover it up. And that should be public information. You should be able to get that. That's all public information. But Norris said the lawyer defending Babbitt made repeated references to her employer at the local nuclear power plant and years of military service, which included deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. Babbitt served on active duty with the Air Force and then in the reserves and the Air National Guard until 2016. A judge acquitted Babbitt on the criminal charges. What an F-wad. In February 2017, records show Norris asked for and received a second peace order against Ashley Babbitt, citing ongoing harassment and stalking. In a handwritten petition, Norris says that Babbitt had recently followed her home from work and that she had also received repeated calls in the middle of the night from an unlisted number. Didn't she already have the dude that they were fighting over? That's frightening. I lived in fear because I didn't know what she was capable of, Norris told the Associated Press. I was constantly looking over my shoulder. In 2019, Norris filed a personal injury lawsuit against Ashley Babbitt, seeking $74,500 in damages, and said she settled out of court with Babbitt's insurance carrier over for an undisclosed sum. By then, Aaron and Ashley had moved to California, where she had grown up and still had family. It's so funny the way it was written. I got to read it the way they wrote it. Hilarious. By then, Aaron and Ashley had moved to California, where she grew up and still had family. So, like, she grew up after the move. That's cute. Timothy McEntee was granted a divorce in Maryland in May 2016. McEntee did not respond to voicemails and messages left at his home. Ashley posted on Facebook that she married Aaron Babbitt the following month. Records show the couple owned a pool cleaning service with Ashley's brother. When a reporter visited the business the day after her passing away, a large sign on the locked door declared the building to be mask-free autonomous zone, better known as America. That's so cute. Not. In the years since Babbitt's passing, Trump and many Republicans in Congress have sought to recast the January 6th insurrection as nonviolent, a contention directly contradicted by hours of video footage and the public testimony of Capitol police officers, 140 of whom were injured in the melee. In his video on Babbitt's birthday, Trump also said, "Together we grieve her terrible loss. There was no reason Ashley should have lost her life that day. We must all demand justice for Ashley and her family. On this solemn occasion, as we celebrate her life, we renew our call for fair and nonpartisan treatment and pray for Ashley Babbitt." So he can't just take responsibility for costing this woman her life because she was so power drunk with her love and worship of him. Aaron Babbitt's lawyer, Terrell Roberts III, did not respond to numerous attempts to retain comment, but in written statements to the media, he has said that her shooting was basically being charged without a trial. Given her background as a 14-year veteran of the Air Force, it is likely that the simple verbal commands, "Hey, Coco," thereby making the use of any force unnecessary, Roberts said. The Capitol Police fired as a last resort. She was jumping through the window. The U.S. Attorney's Office, concluding that the officer acted in self-defense, announced in August that they had found him cleared of all charges. "I tried to wait for as long as I could," Bird said. "I hoped and prayed that no one tried to enter through those doors, but their failure to comply required me to take the appropriate action to save the lives of members of Congress and myself and my fellow officers." Dang. So is that crazy or what? Coco, how you doing, baby girl? Do you need to get out or are you wanting to stay in? You're welcome to stay in. If you go out, you'll have a little adorable puppy dog harass you and take you to the limits of crazy land. This is not shocking coming from a little T supporter. Yeah. It is really sad to me. I mean, that whole day of the insurrection, I was watching some of it live while it was happening. My daughter was living at home at the time. Or was she was just home for Christmas break. It was her freshman year of college, but no, she wasn't just home for they were like on COVID lockdown still at her university January 6th. So sometimes they were doing all their courses online and she was at home. So that's probably what it was. It was probably like delayed return from Christmas break. But anyway, she came out of her room and she told me, "Oh man, there's the insurrection. It's happening." And I didn't really understand the implication because I had already heard that it was happening. So I knew, but she was like, on TikTok and watching all this live footage. So then I started watching some of it and I was like, holy crap, man. And I immediately, it just like grabbed me by the heart because I was born in Arlington, Virginia. I grew up in Washington, D.C. That's where my parents met and got married and divorced. And my sister was born at George Washington University Hospital, I think. George Washington Hospital. Anyway, maybe it was Georgetown University Hospital. And that's my original hometown. And then at that point in time in 2021, my son hadn't graduated high school yet. He hadn't told me yet that he was going to join the military, so I had no idea he'd be stationed there and all. That's where my grandson's going to be born, in Washington, D.C. area. But I had very strong ties. I have old friends in D.C., and of course, I'm married to law enforcement. And living here in Ohio, we could have just as easily moved to Washington, D.C., and he could have just as easily been one of those Capitol Police officers. Like, no crap. And so it always hit me really hard. And I guess Brian Sicknick looks a little bit like my husband, like they're the same stature. Both very good looking, young, Caucasian, slender. Um, and I just identified with it. It just killed me when he passed away the following day. And it's always killed me when people try to downplay his passing and try to pretend that it wasn't a direct result of the beating that he took, because he probably had a concussion and passed away from that. I don't know. I don't know all the medical details, but I do know that his family, especially his brother, has been more outspoken more recently with this second term of the little T. And it's just tragic. I mean, there were other fatalities that day too. There were other insurrectionists that passed away. I remember one had a heart attack, one fell off of the ledging of the Capitol. They said in that article that there were 5 fatalities that day, counting Sicknick the next day. So there, I think I just mentioned 4. You've got Ashley Babbitt, the heart attack, the falling off the Capitol structure, Sicknick, and then one more if anybody knows and wants to share. I don't remember. I don't recall. But man, I mean, the whole thing is just so scary when the officers are getting crushed and gassed. And, one of them that testified in court said that the people attacking him were trying to get his weapon to unalive him with his own weapon. That's what the other insurrectionists were saying, trying to encourage the attack with the people that had hands on. Can you hear that little squeaky toy in the background? I got to get them to stop doing that. It's very, very distracting. Hey, sweetie, can you not do the squeaky toy thing? It's so distracting. Thank you, hon. Damn kids. And no, I didn't say that. No, I did not. I did. Okay, so there was a lot that I wanted to talk with you guys about. This whole effing poop fest over the last 48 hours of what had happened 10 days ago, 11 days ago now. And the poop fest that continues to unravel as these authorities of our national intelligence and security are lying their faces off right now as I sit here and speak into this microphone to you guys about it. They're in a second day of emergency hearings, and I watched parts of them. It's really awful to watch these imbeciles bald-faced lie, and they know they're lying, and they have these doofus looks on their faces where they're like, I know I'm bald-faced lying to you, but if I'm clever enough in my wording, maybe I'll get away with it. But they know that they're toast, so they have nothing to lose. They really need to be court-martialed. They need sanctions. They need way more than just forced resignation, in my opinion. They endangered so many people's lives. And the whole safety of not just the countries involved that day, but really global safety. I mean, that whole threat of WW3 is like, shut the F up with that. Like, quit saying it, because say it enough times and it'll happen. But the threat was, if you don't elect me, you're going to get that. And it's like, no, if we do elect you, we're going to get that. If we don't elect you, that is not even an issue. But man, what they're doing with Greenland right now, and what Vance and his biatch scumbag wife are doing, I hate her. Wait, what's her name again? When little T was like trying to say something about her, and I am blanking on her name. It's like Nora or something like that. She's a lawyer, and she looks so pretty and innocent and dainty, and her going to Greenland was a very hostile act of aggression. Little T trying to threaten Greenland and say that we're going to get Greenland one way or another. Like, how a man who has been convicted of SA can say those types of things that are the same types of things that you say when you're assaulting somebody in that most intimate fashion. So it's like he's graping freaking Greenland. I mean, really, really, really disgusting and rude. And saying, oh, well, they need our protection. It's like, no, dude, they need to be protected from you. They need to be protected from you. So I did find out that some of the resources that these MFs are after, when I say these MFs, I'm talking about Big E, Little T, and PP. Some of the resources that they're after, it's not just the lithium, it's also the cobalt. And you guys might have already known that. I know I'd heard that once or twice before, but it didn't stick. So cobalt and lithium are some of the elements that they're looking for in Greenland. I'm sure that's a lot of what the whole thing with Ukraine is all about. I would imagine that that's a thing with Russia, because they got all that freaking land. So they got all those freaking resources. And it's just gross. I mean, that's the only reason why, in my opinion, that the Big E has his sights set on Mars. For one thing, it's a scam. That's never going to happen. But for another thing, he can justify to his crazy brain and anybody that's going to buy into his crap that it's okay for him to destroy this planet because then there's another planet to go destroy after, or another planet to go live on. When I think, if anything, he just wants to reap resources from Mars. No one's going to live, what was it, 100 million miles away? What? I mean, for somebody who's supposedly so smart, he's really dumb. But I mean, he's just like a little 4-year-old, and he just lives in this fantasy land. Like, he's just obsessed with rockets, like dinosaurs and cars and tractors, right? Anyway, what you saying, Annabelle, is believe that if colored people, that's what we call ourselves. I didn't know you were ethnically diverse, Annabelle. We are many colors, but not white. Oh, are you? Yeah. So I know. I mean, I've got Native American in me, but I look Caucasian. Anyway, if we had stormed the Capitol, the outcome would have been much different. We would have been deleted. Right. Absolutely. And then for all of this crap with the whole like gangsters and trying to exile these people, accusing them of being violent, when it's like, well, you just released 1,600 people who are actually violent, who actually had fair trials and were actually convicted, and you released them willy-nilly because it was too much effort to go through case by case. And at least one of those people has already been deceased by their own stupid actions. And I'm sure much more of that is yet to come. But, with all of the crap fest that keeps happening, the upshot of it is that the world can see what's going on. Of course, there's going to be those people deeply entrenched in this cult of our small t president. And I'll put a link in the chat to a specific video that I'm in the middle of watching. This channel called Let the Fresh Air In, that she specializes in that type of thing. And so I just discovered that she did one 5 months ago on little t. I had been researching other stuff about that because people refer to MAGA as a cult. And at first I thought that was just hyperbole, but it does meet the criteria. It absolutely meets the criteria. And it's just like this fantasy dream state where reality doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that Ashley Babbitt was the one being violent. It doesn't matter that Brian Sicknick passed away from the attack on the Capitol. Nothing matters because they're delusional, because they worship what they worship at all costs. I think that a lot of MAGA folks continue to open their eyes. And I also still believe 100% that the election was stolen with interference, not just the money that Elon was dropping in Pennsylvania and the lottery and all that crap, but with the actual hands-on manipulation of the machines and the ballot counting. I think that there's things that little t, big E, and PP have all said, basically admitting to that, and how they continue to get away with it is just, I guess, in my opinion, because the world is run by Tony Soprano types at this point in time, right? Getting winded. Man. And yeah, Sopranos was a fun show to watch, but it was just a show. It's not real life. You don't really want to live like that. So, I want to say that nobody is cheering for the destruction of a successful company like Tesla. Nobody's cheering for the destruction of the Republican Party. People are cheering for the destruction of the hate, the destruction of the abuse of power. And the things that these people say and do is so abusive. And then the gaslighting, things that little t says, things that the big E says, things that Caroline with a K says, couldn't be more classic gaslighting, narcissistic abuse. Like, just the threatening, and you better be grateful, you better just. I am of Mexican descent. I know I have Native American, Spanish, French, Portuguese, Italian, and Greek. Very cool. Yeah, and see, I love that being of South American descent or Hispanic. I don't know. I mean, I like that you just say Mexican. That used to be so frowned upon. Like back in the 80s, there was just so much racism. Movie stars like J-Lo turned that around for us. Rosie Perez, AOC. It's no longer considered as I mean, our whole culture is just a lot less racist like that. Especially, I was in California for a long time, and in Southern California, there was a lot of racism against people that migrated from Mexico. It's disgusting. And I have family that migrated from Mexico. I don't have Mexican blood in me, but my mom's sister married a person in South America in Mexico City, and they had 4 kids, and then they all moved up to the States. So he's still alive, that uncle, and he could get deported for all I know. He's lived in this country for probably 50 years now. If it was like the early 80s, so over 40 years. And I think just 2 of the kids were born. I hadn't even thought about that. The 2 my two cousins that were born in Mexico City, they could probably get deported too. Holy crap. And one of them's a damn little T supporter. And his father is really upset about it. I mean, I find it thoroughly disgusting. But anyway, back on track. Good to know about that on your ancestry, Annabes. Very cool. My family were not border hoppers, as they call us. My family were already living in the Arizona territories before Arizona was part of the U.S. Oh, interesting. So, and you said about Native American, because is Arizona, is that where Navajo is? I think at least part of it. The Hopi reserves, so much there too. So you could, do you know that even Ivana says that she was graped by little T when she was married to him, like towards the end when things were bad? She put that in her book. That's probably why she's buried at Bedminster, is my assumption or my opinion. She said that she was graped by him in her book, and she later recanted and said that's not what she meant, but she went into detail. I haven't read the book, I haven't read the excerpt, but I was reminded of that in something that I was looking at yesterday. So yeah, for people like Big E and Little T to accuse other Americans of hating a successful business, like the Tesla company, or hating, just being haters. It's like those folks are haters of the hate. Like, again, the gaslighting, the turning around, the freaking playing the victim every freaking time. It's so frustrating. So, yeah. I also found out, I've been really curious for a long time about why little T hates Columbia University so much. He hates them. He's constantly going after them. And, I got this from The Sopranos. It's like he's got a hard on for them, right? Have you guys noticed that? He hates Columbia University. So I've been wondering more and more, like, he must have applied there and not gotten in. His son, Baron, must have applied there and not gotten in. Other family of his must have applied there and not gotten in. That I don't know. But I just found out yesterday that his sister, and this was from watching that Let the Fresh Air In documentary type of thing. Something she said spurred my imagination to look up, because Trump's older sister was a successful federal attorney. And so I looked at where she went to school. And one of the schools she attended was Columbia Law School. She passed away a couple of years ago, I think, 2023. I think that was Mary Trump, not to be confused with the Mary Trump who has the podcast, his niece, who despises him and does a really good job on her podcast, I think. Anyway, so his sister graduated from school there. She was a successful federal attorney, and he had tried to get Columbia University to buy $100 million worth of real estate from him, like over 20 years ago. And they said, no, thank you. So that's part of what we're seeing. But I wouldn't be surprised too if he couldn't get into school there, and if his son couldn't get into school there, because his son goes to NYU currently, and he went to the University of Pennsylvania, which is highly prestigious, but it's not in New York, and he's a New Yorker. So where he went in Philadelphia is where Elon got one of his degrees, and where Chris Norland, the true crime or YouTuber, got one of his degrees. And one of his degrees is in history, and I think another one of his degrees is in economics, and he's a professor I think when he's a professor, he's teaching history, but I don't know. Anyway, Chris Norland does a ton of great videos about our current administration, and he knows a lot because he was at the University of Pennsylvania the same time the Big E was. He didn't know him directly, but he had friends who knew the Big E directly. So he has a lot of insight into what's going on there. And it's interesting that I think it's called the Warren School of Business, I think, at the University of Pennsylvania, that little T got his business degree at. And I think that the Big E might have gotten a business degree there too. I'm not sure. But I do know that they both went to school there. So it's just curious. It's curious how that little T has so much resentment and hostility and is so revenge driven. He just won't stop. Like, he has to win. He's obsessed. Kind of like that freaking Ashley Babbitt, which makes sense why he wants to protect her so much, because she's so much like him. I think I'm Navajo. Very cool, Annabise. That's awesome. That's why I get so mad about racists saying to go back to our country. This is our country. Exactly. Exactly. Fred Field says French, English, German here. And Annabise says, Fred, we might be cousins from the French side. LOL. Yeah. And I've shared with you guys, I have a lot of German, Irish, Dutch, and Native American, maybe a little Italian. But it's, people are people. And yeah, racism is disgusting. Variety is the spice to life. And we all do better when we are more open-minded and more accepting. It's terrible when people are just so afraid of anybody different than themselves, and just the greed that, to see everyone as a threat, to see everybody as a competitor, which I think some people are raised like that. And I think that little T was one of those people, that was just ingrained in him, that, the people around you aren't potential friends, they're potential rivals, right? I think so too, Jazz. Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was really wild about the Columbia University and the decades long fight, because that didn't surprise me at all. I've been suspecting some deep-seated thing. So what channel was it that I was watching? It was the I've Had It channel. Those two women are hilarious. They're very smart. They live in Oklahoma. They're like Southern belles, and they just like go straight at it. They're reality TV stars. I just looked them up today, the two women from I've Had It. But I loved what they said about Caroline with a K. They called her the 27-year-old disaster. I like to call her Caroline with a K because it just cracks me up. But Caroline with a K has been threatening folks, saying how we should be so grateful that we have this God, this little T God, as our ruler, as our icon, right? Yeah, she lies all the freaking time, and she's getting caught in her lies all the freaking time. And she just thinks if she keeps spewing words out of her mouth that she'll win. And it's just like, she's so uneducated. She's well educated enough to be able to speak with conviction, and she's got a good vocabulary, and she's got a lot of confidence, like too much confidence, overly confident. She's argumentative, she's pompous, she's like a bully. This 27-year-old little blondie bully is so weird. And I guess the old man that she married, who's almost 60, is like very wealthy. Isn't that shocking, right? disgusting. And I just want to underscore how she had his child this past July, I think it was. Yeah, it was just this past July. It was just a few days before the faked assassination attempt. But they'd only been married since December. So, she tries to say that she was pure when they got married, and that's so hilarious. It's like, girl, do the math. The math ain't mathin'. And then, she stopped her maternity leave immediately when her god was fake almost assassinated. I don't even have words. Okay. I have never listened to Caroline with a K. I know I have a lot of trouble listening to these people too. They're just awful. They're so awful. But I feel like they're such a threat to the safety of like global safety and my safety. I feel like I need to keep a relatively close eye on what they're doing just to keep myself informed. Sorry. I don't have any delusions that I'm going to be able to do anything about it. So sometimes I'm like, why don't I just give myself a break and quit looking at the train wreck? Because it is disgusting. It is overwhelming. It is insanity. But it's educational. In a twisted way, it's kind of entertaining. I have found so many great content creators that I didn't know about when I was just focused on other types of true crime, not the true crime in our government. So, some of these channels are just phenomenal, and I love sharing them with you guys, like the I've Had It and the Chris Norland, and Hal Sparks is one that I've been watching a lot lately. I called him a freak the other day, and I stand by that, but I mean that in a very complimentary, affectionate way. Like, he calls himself a freak. He's a wild individual. And he's smart, man. Like, he started his career as a comedian. He's also a musician, and he's smarter than a whip. He's very politically informed and insightful, and he does lives like all day long on this stuff. And I try to watch as much as I can. It's hard. It's hard to fit it into my schedule, and there's so many other great channels that I want to watch too. Sometimes I get a little overwhelmed. I'm like, why do all of these people have to keep putting out all this great material? Like Don Lemon, he also does lives like all day long. Like, there's all these newer channels that go live many hours of the day. Like, they do segments, like they do their morning live, their afternoon live, their evening live, and then they do other stuff too. But they also have like production crews. So there's that. But they're very awesome. They're very polished, and they're very down to earth, which is what I like. I'm not so drawn to the polished. I'm much more drawn to the grunge, down to earth, just people that are just straightforward. They're not trying to be anything that they're not. So it's very refreshing to see that on the internet, and to me, that's what it's all about. What else do I have in my notes here? I wanted to say something. I don't know how aware you guys might be, Anna and Christine and anyone else who's here. There's a couple others. Of course you remember Monica Lewinsky, right? And you, of course, remember the blue dress that she saved that was used as evidence because it had Clinton's DNA on it, right? It's disgusting. Disgusting. But what a lot of people don't realize is the reason that she saved that wasn't because she was hung up on her lover. She saved that as evidence in case she disappeared. She saved that as evidence in case she disappeared. And she shared it with her creepy friend, who was the ugly blonde woman that was a lot older than her that she was friends with, Monica Lewinsky, and the one that she confided in at work. I want to say her first name was Linda. Do you guys remember? Anyway, she gave that dress to her friend that she confided in as kind of an insurance policy in case anything happened to her. That I'm just going to Google Monica. I saw her recently. Monica Lewinsky's confidant. Is it Linda? Linda Tripp. Yep, that's her name. Remember Linda Tripp? Wouldn't we all like to forget her? She was so awful. I mean, she really threw Monica under the bus. But and that was like Monica's only support person for her time while she was doing her internship in Washington, D.C. She was a student at Lewis and Clark College out there in Portland, Oregon when she did that internship. And yeah, I think she realizes that she's lucky to be alive. Just saying. So the whole thing with, I just don't even know where to begin with the breach of the war plans, right? And how they're being questioned about that now again today, as they were yesterday. All the people in that signal chat, you're not supposed to be texting about these things. And they just continue to lie and lie and lie. But having that information puts you in great danger. So that person who was inadvertently included in the group text, Jeff Goldberg, I think is his name, the editor in chief of the Atlantic magazine, he knew that having that information put himself in great danger. And that if he did the wrong thing with it, not only would he be in greater danger, but the whole world would be in greater danger. But even doing the right thing with it, he's still in great danger. He's still under attack, and he knows that. And that's been the only defense that these low-life scumbags have had, is to trash him. And that part of doing that is just typical gaslighting. It's a red herring. It's a distraction. It creates a whole new narrative. But let's just say that he was a hack of a journalist. Let's just say that he was an idiot. Well, why do you have his phone number then? And then even more so, you should not have him included in your freaking group text. But whether he's an idiot or not doesn't distract from the hard facts of what these top security clearanced authorities have put into a very public arena. And it is entirely possible that all of the group texts that they probably have on Signal and whatever other platforms, that those have been getting hacked by the Chinese, the USSR, and many others. It's out of control. Crazy. Christine says, Jazz, you make me feel so old. What else did I miss here? I love that. French, Germans, Irish, Scottish, American Indian is what I am. I am what I am. I married pure German and found out you can tell a German, but you can't tell them much. That's hilarious. Christine, yes, I remember. Yeah, my husband has a lot of German and Scottish, and I'm not sure what else. Maybe some British. Anyway, a lot of Scottish, a lot of German. Yes, I remember. You make me feel so old, Christine. I'm sorry I make you feel old. Oh, yeah, because I am. Well, it's all about how you feel. So just feel good about yourself. It's better than the alternative, right? She better not make me any older. I am already older than dirt. LOL. He put it all out because they lied and said there was no confidentiality in the group chat discussed. So since they said it was not confidential, he released it all. Thank you, Annabees, for bringing us all up to speed. For anybody who is not aware yet, that was because of the 27-year-old train wreck, and that she swore that there was nothing in there that was confidential. There was no war plans in there. And so the editor-in-chief of the Atlantic magazine, Jeff Goldberg, I think it's Goldberg, Goldblum is the actor. Goldberg is the Atlantic editor-in-chief. So yeah, he published it all. There's a lot more crazy than what we saw up front, right? A lot more crazy in today's news. The text threads and the detail, and it's just awful. It is absolutely awful. I think there was only one thing he held back, and that was the name of like a top CIA operative or something like that, because that would be a disaster, another disaster. I mean, this whole thing is a disaster of unparalleled proportions, unparalleled. And for these fools to think that they're going to hold on to their jobs, and I'm glad that they think that, because the longer they try, the more they'll take down with them. You know, it's like a bunch of rats on a ship. They all start jumping ship. But if they don't jump ship, they go down with the ship. So have it your way. One way or another, you're going to get yours, right? To use little T's threat against Greenland. One way or another, we're going to get her. We're going to get Greenland. It's just like, man, like, why are you so hot for Greenland? Why are you so hot for Canada? Why are you so hot for little P? I mean, does he seem to, is it like a bromance? I don't think that I'm the only one who sees that with little T and PP, or little T and the big E, and so many of the others, like Mike Johnson, Hamburglar, I'm not saying his name. Like, I just get this like homoerotica vibe off of all of them. Like, they all just want to hop into bed together. Like, just do it and get it over with and get on with your life. Come on. But no, if they just keep repressing it and taking out all of their dissatisfaction and their aggression out on everybody in the world. Haven't thought about Lewinsky and Clinton in years. I know. I just saw her recently in some type of interview. I don't even remember what it was. I didn't pay too much attention, but she seemed like a reasonable person that's had a decent life and moved on with it, you know. Thumbs up to Goldberg for publishing to the public. It proves we has. Yeah, and see, this is where it's so important, where the media has such an active part in what's happening politically. Like, what happened in World War II could not have happened without the propaganda. And it took me many years of my life and getting older to understand the truth behind that. Same thing with North Korea. You can't do it without the propaganda. And in fact, a propaganda poster is what that American Otto Warmbier was red rummed for when he was visiting North Korea, and he tried to steal a propaganda poster from the hotel to take back home with him as a souvenir. And, you know, he thought it was funny, and it cost him his life. And that was horrible. But when I learned more about North Korea through that, because he was from the Cincinnati area, he was from a neighborhood of Cincinnati called Wyoming. And, you know, so it was big news here in Ohio. I mean, it was big news nationwide, but especially here in Ohio. You know, there were people that knew the family. And I mean, it's a nice part of Cincinnati, Wyoming. It's like north of Cincinnati. And it was just so tragic. It was so tragic. But that was when I learned more about North Korea. And I thought, how could it still be like this? My granddad fought in the Korean War, and that was in the 50s, right? We've been through this before because I had my years all wrong. I think it was like 1953 or something. He fought in the Korean War. He got a Purple Heart in the Korean War. He got promoted to colonel for his heroic actions in that war. And that war has never stopped, really. It's really never stopped. And then we have this current little T douchebag in office who, again, he has like this bromance going with Kim Jong-un. Like, you can't be friends with people like that. You can't fall for their flattery. I mean, he's such a stooge. He's such a simple person. And that's why he likes people like Caroline with a K or Ashley Babbitt, is because they suck up to him and they flatter him. And he says it all the time when he talks about how wonderful somebody is. He always has to add that part of, they love me. It's like, well, obviously, because if they didn't, they'd be horrible, right? Like, that's the foundation of what makes a person a good person or a bad person. If you love him, then you're a wonderful person. And if you don't love him, then you suck and he's going to deport you. Right? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So I'm just like at an hour and 15 minutes. I do want to make sure I get all the thoughts that I jotted down in my notebook here to share with you. And I want to keep up with your ideas here. Have dummies in the White House. Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. The corruption, the incompetence, and then they're caught red-handed, like with their freaking pants down. And they're like, no, it wasn't me. I didn't have my pants down. Or my favorite, my husband, when he arrested somebody with rugs in their pocket, the guy said, how was it that he phrased it? I don't even know whose pants these are. These aren't my pants. I don't even know whose pants these are. That, I think, is just the best. So, the man in real life caught red-handed with a baggie of rugs in his pocket, and he claims that he doesn't know where the pants came from, the pants that he's wearing. Sure, it's possible. It's possible he put on the wrong pants. Those aren't his rugs in the pocket, but oh, you gotta just laugh at this stuff sometimes. And yeah, these people like completely busted with their stupidity, their cluelessness, not just the dangerousness, but the rudeness, being so insulting towards other countries, really being insulting towards little T. What's his face? JD was caught red-handed insulting the intelligence of little T. JD said things in that thread that actually are some of the most intelligent things that I've ever heard him say. But then he'll take it all back and deny that he said it to try to get out of trouble. He really plays the mimbo, in my opinion, the male bimbo. And yeah, then he tagged along with his wife, Usha. I think her name's Usha. But that was just insane. Like the night before last or the day before that, when little T was talking about Usha and he couldn't remember her name. He couldn't remember his vice president's name. So he started to call him the first, and then he said the best vice president, the wife of the best vice president. And then he talked about how wonderful Usha was. He couldn't remember either of their names. And she's, I guess, considered the second lady, being married to the VP. But he started to call Vance his first lady. His first lady, where is she? By the way, she is like completely MIA. You hardly ever have a sighting of the woman that's legally tied to his funky rear end. Can you imagine how much she despises him after what he's put her through? Even though she gets a lot of money out of the deal, can you imagine And I have no empathy for her. I really don't. I used to. The first time around, I was like, Melania, blink twice if you need help. But now I'm just like, man, she's as bad as the rest of them. They're all just lying sacks of crap, in my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. And yeah, I'm just not going to hold back, because I don't think any of us should. I think it's too dangerous to play along. I really do. I don't think it puts us in more danger to speak out. I think it puts us in more danger to not speak out. And the power is in the numbers. When more and more people are making noise, it will get better. And a lot of times, the crisis, things have to get worse before they get better. And you just got to keep hoping that it's not going to cost a bunch of people their lives and their safety, right? Because we all know in reality it will, and it is. It's just a matter of how many. Ugh. Um, let's see. I'm glad there's still some people in the media that still have integrity. There's even, Fox News has definitely hired a couple of people to be in their news crew that are not the sycophants that the rest of the crew is. And more of their presentation is hopping off of the sinking ship. I mean, you can't stand by some of the stupidity without looking like a huge doofus yourself. And and you're guilty in it. Like I was saying, like that, these governments can't pull this crap without the propaganda machine, which is why Big E wanted to buy MSNBC. And how many of these companies are owned by the little T or T affiliates? I mean, pretty much all of them is what has gotten us to where we are, and what got us in this type of position back in the first presidency. CNN and MSNBC have lost all their credibility. I know, and they're trying to hold on to it, like they're flip-floppy. And yeah, I mean, all of mainstream media, that's what's kind of funny, is it's like, yeah, they can keep buying up the mainstream media, but it's becoming just like these countries, like what used to be USSR, and the one run by Kim Jong-un, where that the only stuff you see on television and in print is crap. It's all just like a show. It has nothing to do with reality. So yeah, you can keep watching that stuff if that's what you want to keep in front of yourself and you want to ignore reality. But with all of the diversity of the internet and these platforms, even when they're owned by people like the Big E, there's still a lot of people on X that are speaking out against him. I mean, just like there's people on Facebook speaking out against the guy who was the first successful rat penis transplant recipient. That was something someone put on their Facebook as soon as all of the somebody posted that on Facebook as soon as all of the censorship went away a few weeks or months ago. And of course, it got taken down right away, but it was already screenshot by many. And probably ABC, NBC, and CBS also, they're all complicit. And they have to be. I mean, in a sense, they get threatened all the time, but they're stupid to fall for it. It's like, just stand up and be brave. Just grow some, because you're not making yourself any safer by kissing the ring like Mika and Joe Scarborough. I mean, that just made them so disgusting and despicable and stupid. And all of these that you just mentioned, ABC, NBC, and CBS, they all get that type of abuse from little T if if they ask him a question that's too hard, the first thing he asks them is, "Oh, what station are you with?" "Oh, yeah, goes to show you. Yeah, your station sucks and so do you." Okay, next question. It's insane. They got Steven Stern in trouble too. I'm curious what got Steven Stern in trouble too. I am just so effing grossed out by that case. It just gets worse and worse every day, doesn't it? It's so awful. I am just so disgusted. Did you guys see the thumbnail of Paula Plunders that she just dropped in the last like 24 hours or less? I can't even say the words that are with the thumbnail. It's about Maddie, and I'll just let you guys look at it. I mean, maybe I'll put a link to it in the description for people that are interested, but I just like gag just looking at the thumbnail. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. These people are so freaking gross. Steven Stearns and Jen Soto and Steven Stearns' mommy and daddy. Like they can all just go to HE double hockey sticks. I'm sure melanoma only has to appear in important things. Right. She won't even like let him hold her hand or touch her. And I think I put the Tracey Ullman videos. It's Ullman, not Almond. The Tracey Ullman links in one of my video descriptions last week. The Melania bot skits that are about 7 years old, I think. I'll put them in the description today too. They're hilarious. Hilarious. 7 years old. And they are just like so on point. They could have been made today. Pants down. Yeah, caught with their pants down. Yes, all of them are gross. It's just terrible. It's such a waste of all of our time and effort. It's like, because they're such hacks and they don't know how to do their jobs and they're just trying to basically steal from the poor to give to the rich. And so that's all they do. That's all they busy themselves with. And then all of the important things that need to be done are coming undone, either by negligence or by the wrecking ball or the chainsaw massacre whack job. Whatever happened to the first ladies helping bring love, health, and prosperity to their country? Yeah, whatever happened to that? I, I don't know. I don't know. So let's talk crazy talk about Kylie Rodney. Sure, she might be that the remains that were destroyed in the incineration, the cremation. She might be the remains that were in the back of that car that everything about them was so bizarre. So bizarre. And she might not. And she is probably deceased. And I don't like to talk about her maybe not being deceased because it seems so crazy. But there's a very I just want to say a very low possibility that she was abducted to be trafficked, right? And that's why they had SF Investigates out there. That's why they had Tony Dodgy out there. That's why they had Zanime out there. That's why they had MC Ultra running the streets. That's why they had, what was it, 60 FBI agents on day one? It makes no sense. You're not going to have 60 FBI agents come out and kick the dirt when there's a missing kid. It just doesn't happen that way. So, and then, not to mention the 20,000 man hours of searching and what was it, like 14 agencies and almost 200 professionals, not to mention the volunteers and Linda Lucetti. And SF Investigate said he's still on the payroll of Kylie Rodney's granddad. He said that recently, you guys. Remember a few months ago? And for that, we can thank him, right? These people outing themselves. But there's a possibility that she was abducted and that she's being trafficked and that the whole thing is just a psyop. The whole thing is just a psyop. And, then, conspiracy theory, conspiracy theorist, Jazz is a conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying that I think that that's what happened. I'm saying that it's possible. And to ignore that possibility is how those things continue to happen in real life, is because people want to pretend it's not there. So we were kind of talking about it yesterday, and I wanted to get back to that. I think it's so taboo. None of us want to be with the tinfoil hat. There was one time in the 2.5 years that I've been doing this YouTube thing that I actually took my tinfoil out and I put it on my head. And it was a video that I made immediately after watching Check It crying about finding her laptop in his kitchen. He's crying in his kitchen making this YouTube video, crying about how he found her laptop and tried to call for law enforcement to come collect it and nobody cared. And I'm watching him and I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is just a sensitive guy who's out there looking for her stuff, making a YouTube video. And then I was just like with redheaded Gigi in the Idaho 4, before I was even done watching their sappy videos, I'm like, this person is ridiculous. Give me my tinfoil hat. But one of the things I wanted to go back to with Kylie and with Trinity, and I don't know about Dante Del Toro, I haven't looked at the photographs, but we know that Kylie and Trinity both had green eyes. We know that this whole thing with breeding, that whole Handmaid's Tale, is part of Adolf's regime. He was a breeder. That was his thing, was to breed more white people with the attributes that you want. We know that the Big E does that. And his daughter, Vivian, the one who's transgender, she suspects that her and her 5 brothers, hey, Coco, that were all born by the same mom and dad with Elon. I think Jenna Wilson is the mother's name. Anyway, she suspects that they did selective embryonic in vitro fertilization. So they had the one son who passed away from SIDS. Super sad. Is that the son that was named Xavier? I think it might be, or Vivian's name is Xavier. I forget. That first son, I know I have it in my notes. I don't like to talk about people that are deceased with the wrong name. So let me see if I can locate it. And then Vivian is one of 2 twin boys. And then it is triplets, the 3 younger brothers that she has. Nevada is the one that passed away. So Vivian was born with the name Xavier, born as twin boys with her brother Griffin. So Nevada was born in 2002. Vivian and Griffin were 2004, so they're 20 now. And then Kia, Saxon, and Damien are all 19 now. And I brought this up the other day when I was sharing the information that I had found here. Why do you name your kid Damien? Isn't that kind of Titanic-like? I don't know. And then you have X was born in 2020. 2020. Slippage of the brain, momentary lapse of reason. X was born in 2020. That's the one that Big E walks around with on his shoulders, and the one that little T has been babysitting lately, and the one who wiped his freaking snot on the damn Resolute desk. And Trump just sat there taking it. Disgusting. That was the craziest crap I'd ever seen in my life. Come on. So then Exa was born in 2021, and that was a daughter by a surrogate mother. And X and Exa and Techno are all Grimes's babies. And Shiva Sivan, I think is how you say the name of the baby mama who was sitting next to the big E when he was making his amazing silverware shape on his finger the other night at dinner. So Sivan had twins between the births of Grimes babies in 2021. So Exa was born in 2021 through a surrogate mother. And then Techno was born after that, like in 2022, maybe. But before Grimes's last baby was born, that I'm guessing she carried in her own womb, Sivan had the twins in between that. Like, that is just so disrespectful. And that's where it's just like misogynistic and breeding, just straight up breeding. And then in 2024, Sivan had their third baby. And then just this year, she announced that she had a baby named Sheldon, kind of like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory, in 2025. So 2024 was the third baby with the big E. And then 2025 was the announcement of Sheldon. And then the influencer Ashley St. Clair mentioned in the media that she had one of E's babies too. All the kids are homeschooled. They're all online learning artificial intelligence, applied science, and coding. It's just insanity. It's just insanity. Like these poor kids, the control. Like, do they get to be kids? Do they get to be independent? Do they get to have their own thoughts and feelings like Vivian does? I mean, thank goodness Vivian just does her own thing. The 20-year-old that, you know, the big E says that she died of the woke mind virus. Instead of just like being a grown up and loving his child and accepting his child, he says she died of the woke mind virus. It's like, no, dude, your other kid passed away, the one before her. Remember? The one named Nevada. But no, he says Vivian passed away. I mean, that was how I first started learning about his kids. I was like, oh my goodness, that's so sad. I didn't know that he was saying died of the woke mind virus. I just knew he said that his kid had passed. And he wasn't talking about Nevada. He was talking about Vivian. Like, I mean, the man's got issues, clearly. So, so my point about the green eyes with Kylie and with Trinity is apparently green eyes are worth a lot more on the open market. And so then I got to thinking about the Idaho 4, and it looks to me like Madison Mogan has green eyes. It looks to me like Kaylee G has blue eyes, and then Ethan, he might have hazel eyes. No, actually, Kaylee G doesn't have blue eyes. She has brown eyes. And Maddie, I think her eyes are green. They could be blue, but I think they're green. And then, like I said, Ethan has hazel eyes. And then Xana either has hazel or brown. I'm not sure. If they're brown, they're kind of like a golden brown. But, I just was thinking about, like, could they have even been terminated, extinguished, unalived, and their reproductive and trigger warning, tinfoil hat time, right? Could they have had their reproductive elements harvested? There, I said it. Okay. Crazy talk. But these are things that are happening more and more with this whole like artificial intelligence crap and this whole freaking new world order that this Project 2025 is after. It's completely out of control. Completely out of control. So let me start thinking about wrapping up as we're getting to 2 hours. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So much. I need to wrap it up. This is killing me. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, Xana, Kaylee, Maddie, and maybe even Dante. Could they have been taken and maybe their lives were ended, but prior to that they had harvested from them. I think especially with the Idaho 4, we've always heard that word harvested, and we didn't know if there was something with that Cody Funk that was like a coroner and worked in the hospital. Sorry, like were parts early on. There was information to make people question if there was harvesting going on. But was it reproductive harvesting? Is that what we're looking at? Is that why they keep dropping these clues? Or am I just crazy? Am I just creative, running wild? Damn, if I hadn't read that freaking book and seen that freaking movie, The Handmaid's Tale. I've told you guys, I've never seen the television show. Like, I've tried to watch 1 or 2 episodes and I just can't. Like, the dystopia thing is just too much for me. The movie was awful. The book was awful, but I already know the book and the movie. I can't force myself to deal with the television show. And I know the television show was really popular. So was the book. So was the movie. How could something so gross be so popular? I mean, that's good. That's good that people want to be educated and people want to be in the know. But the thing I find that was so chilling about the book back in the early 90s, came out in the late 80s. Yeah, it came out in the late 80s, maybe even 85 or 86. I think I read it in 88, summer of 88. What was so chilling about it was you could see it happening. Like it seemed so far fetched, but the world was taken over by conservative white dudes, and their hideous monster wives would help their disgusting husbands force themselves on the pretty handmaids. The handmaids would be forced to carry these children. So women were just slaves to reproduce with the disgusting elite white guys. And the wives were part of the heinous crimes against humanity. It was awful, 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 awful. And there was just no freedom. And reading Margaret Atwood's books, I told you guys I accidentally read the Edible Woman when I was like 16. I thought it was going to be like my first romance novel. It wasn't. It was not my first romance novel. Wifey a few years later was my first romance novel. But Edible Woman I thought was going to be like, you know, exciting like Wifey was, and it was disgusting like Handmaid's Tale was, but it was well written, and I became a Margaret Atwood fan. I read all the stuff that she wrote in between the two. Also, I can't even remember what they are now. It was so long ago. But Edible Woman was her first novel, and then I'm sure she's written since Handmaid's Tale. She's still alive. I mean, she's probably late 80s now, and I got to meet her in downtown Seattle at a book signing in when I was in my 30s, and she was extremely cool, extremely cool. I got to shake hands with her too, which I always think is some kind of magic in that. Um, anyway, so for me, The Handmaid's Tale really hits home. Like when there was mention of it in Kylie's mom's Facebook profile information, I think it was like her profile picture. I thought, oh, that's weird. I didn't really think much of it at first. I didn't like think it meant anything other than, the television show was big at the time. And then when that crap came up in the Idaho 4 case with the criminal defendant sitting in the front row with his copy of The Handmaid's Tale on his lap and Margaret Atwood hovering in the aisle over his shoulder, I was just like, why are they putting Handmaid's Tale in these true crime cases? Like, what's going on here? What is going on here? And then with all this crap with Project 2025, you guys, that's exactly what that crap is. I haven't read the 900-page document either, the Project 2025, but I guarantee you that's what's in there. And then you get into the whole part about genetics. What's the word for it that they surrogacy? Well, except that the women get assaulted by the white elite dudes, and then they carry the babies, and then the disgusting couple keeps the baby. The handmaid is like trash. She's done with. What's it called? Eugenics? Is that what it's called? Like, isn't that like the thing that Adolf was in and the thing that Big E is into? The study of how to arrange reproduction within a human population to increase the occurrence of heritable characteristics regarded as desirable, developed largely by Sir Francis Galton as a method of improving the human race. Eugenics was increasingly discredited as unscientific and racially biased during the 20th century, especially after the adoption of its doctrines by the Nazis in order to justify their treatment of Jews, disabled persons, and other minority groups. So that's a huge thing with the Big E. And, you take somebody like Kylie, who was also a musical prodigy, and some people wonder if that's not genetically inherited. Like Big E thinks he's a genius and that's going to be genetically inherited. Those things may or may not be genetically inherited. I mean, there's arguments on both sides. But certainly physical characteristics like the color of your hair and eyes and skin and your stature and your athleticism, all of those things are genetic and can be controlled. And that might be where these true crime cases that I've been the most interested in tie into the true crime that's going on in our nation's government right now. Or maybe I just need a straitjacket in a rubber room. Okay, time to stop, right? Grab some lunch, play with the puppy again. Thanks for listening, you guys. I won't sign off really quickly. I'll take a minute. I'll read through all your comments here and look at my notes once more to see if there's anything in there. What did I miss? I missed a whole bunch. Okay, whatever. I think the last thing I read was the whatever happened to the first ladies helping bring love, health, and prosperity to their country. Those days are over. Melanoma is cold-hearted. Oh, okay. I read all of this. What she wants matters, just like her husband. Yeah, she is cold. And then that son of theirs is so freaking change my thumbnail pictures, but the thumbnail that I have right now has this insanely tall guy standing next to Mike Johnson at the podium at one of their pressers, trying to pretend that all of the hype is just hype and that it's no big deal, putting your chats with war plans on Signal. No big deal. I'm curious who that guy is. It's like 6'9" or something. That's how tall Melania and little D's child is, the one that goes to NYU. And he's 19, I think, and he's friends with the freaking Tate brothers. Elon's brother got one of his girlfriends or wives, I think, from a Epstein affiliate or an Epstein party or scene or something. It all comes back to the same thing. So there are tunnels under everything. That's where the handmaids all go through. OMG. And I'm like kidding, obviously, but there's truth to every joke. My goodness. Completely out of control nuts. I think they thought it had to be the rug dealers involved. Yeah, too many millionaires living there to miss an opportunity to make money. I would love it if your tinfoil reception is right. What do you mean, Fred? Curious what you mean. You would love it if Kylie was still in existence. But see, they could have like offed all of those people just like they said that they were not alive, but harvested their zygotes before the end of life. And again, sorry, trigger warning and retroactively. Sorry for that. I'm not saying that rugs growers are there and that traffic happens. All of that is true. But I think it was a fight. I think it's Occam's razor, the kids on a live tour, the Lord of the Flies party. I agree. I totally agree. Annabise, I think that that's exactly what happened, but the other part still could have happened too, in my opinion. And then the whole thing with Trinity Backus 2 months later, and then remembering Trinity Backus's stepdad, Christopher Stanio, Nevada County deputy, who was boots on the ground searching for Kylie. And then her stepdad's brother, Matthew Stanio, who's a California State Highway Patrol trooper. I mean, the highways are where the trafficking happens. And the people involved in law enforcement and the military are usually integral, if not always integral, to that type of thing. But I agree about the Occam's razor. But, truth is always stranger than fiction. So, you throw out all these possibilities, and they are all possibilities. So I think the only thing that's not possible with Kylie Rodney is that she did not drive herself into that water and drowned. That's not possible. They would have found her vehicle. She would have had water in her lungs. That part is stupid. But law enforcement can say whatever they want to say, and many, many people will say, well, the authorities said it, therefore it's true. They wouldn't lie to us, the public. No way. Anna, you're probably right. They may have intended to beat her down, but live after treating her a lesson, but something went wrong. Right, Fred, like maybe she fell off of a cliff and she was so gravely injured, and then things went downhill from there. And maybe that's why Jägermeister had that tattoo, stay alive for me. Stay alive. Maybe. And then the woman with the same name as his mother's name, Kimberly Westerfall, who had the trafficking recovery program in Georgia and Russia. Yeah, I think it was Georgia and Russia. Kimberly Westerfall. Same age as Jägermeister's mother with the same name. Let's see, teaching a lesson. Anyone see the post about China and rent a womb? Yes, Christine. There's craziness, absolute craziness. I'm trying to remember whose post I saw about China and rent a womb, but it's a thing. It's absolutely a thing. I mean, surrogacy happens in our country legally, and sometimes it's necessary and sometimes it's completely above boards, and it's like the most amazing gift a person can give to another, but it is a slippery slope that gets really twisted really quickly. So yeah, I saw that post about China and the rent a womb, and Anna B says, no, I haven't. You mean like surrogacy? Yeah, it's kind of like surrogacy. um I haven't opened it yet, Anna. It's supposed to be a baby factory. So I did look into one of those posts. I don't know if it's the same one that you're talking about. Little T got melanoma at an Epstein party. You're right. Oh, thank you, Anna Bees. And they were like on an Epstein airplane the first time they did the nasty, disgusting, unthinkable. Gross. Gross. And then he's like cheating on her with a porn star, like right after she had the baby. And that was 19 years ago, and she's still got to hear about it in the news all the time. I'm surprised she doesn't just have him eliminated. Of course, I'm completely kidding. She didn't drive herself into the water. But yeah, that China, I was going to look up that China thing, rent a womb. So I was trying to remember who posted it. Do you remember who posted it, Christine? And if I looked at the same one that you're talking about? OMG. News Nation, California's underground baby farm industry. Was it News Nation? Heritage Foundation, the new face of birth tourism, Chinese nationals, American surrogates. So the Heritage Foundation is the third thing that comes up, and the Heritage Foundation is the same people that wrote Project 2025 that's getting implemented right now. The plan was in the first 100 days of this presidency, and we're probably at like day 60 right now. Let's see, day 65. So we're like 25 days from it being complete, 35 days from it being complete. I can do math, really. California's underground baby farm industry. Chinese nationals are giving birth in California. Some are renting Americans' wombs with surrogacy. So yeah, I looked at that whole thing, and basically Chinese are having babies that have American nationality because of the renting of the wombs with the surrogacy. And it's crazy. It's absolutely insane, but it's a thing. Renting a womb behind California's underground baby farm industry. Trump administration is cracking down on the underground industry in California. Chinese nationals are paying big money to baby brokers. Oh my goodness, that's so disgusting. The National Institute of Health has an article here. It's the fourth thing down. Uterus rental, regulating surrogacy in China. But the Heritage Foundation, the third thing that comes up. What did I Google? I Googled China rent-a-womb. Birth tourism. You've probably heard that. So yeah, that's where all of these things tie together in the conspiracy theory tinfoil hat land, right? Oh man. Okay. I'm just going to look at the notes again and get ready to sign off here. We're right at about 2 hours. Thanks so much for hanging in there with me, you guys. So there's a video that I'm going to put a link in the description. It's the channel content creator. His name is JusticeAtooZ, and he made a video about how to tell if something is a psyop. And I watched the video and I thought it was really good, very educational. and I thought maybe it was a psyop. And so I looked through the comments to see what, to kind of take the temperature of what was going on there. And I think that was kind of the universal thing, is like that people thought the video was good and people wondered if it was a psyop. Both. Yeah. So, yeah, the problem with our current administration in our government is the deviousness. They're so deviant. And you take somebody like Vance, JD, or the big E, or even little T, they're all so freaking deviant. So I'll go ahead and give those rat bastards a compliment. They are intelligent in a sense. They're stupid MFs, in my opinion. But they have that type of twisted deviancy that is really difficult to outsmart. They are crafty. They're criminals. They're absolute criminals. Oh, here's a good one. This is a good zinger to end on. In the war between dumb and evil, dumb is obviously winning. So, I think that was like Stephen Colbert or something. It was late last night I was watching a bunch of funny stuff, trying to de-stress before I fell asleep. And I just love that. It might have been Jimmy Kimmel. The war between dumb and evil, dumb is obviously winning. Oh, and a former USSR investigator was found deceased. I needed to look into that. I needed to look into Eric Grower, the private driver in the Idaho 4 case that drove Kaylee and Maddie home from the grub truck. I've always figured that driver played an integral part in what happened. And we also need to pay more attention to what happened to Alexei Navalny. Alexei Navalny. I want to say he's still alive. They tried to poison him to death, and he might have passed away. And then what else? Oh, the stable coin that's being released by the Stable Genius. What a hilarious name for a meme coin or a shit coin or a Bitcoin. Stable coin, because it's so freaking volatile. But if we just call it the stable coin, then everybody will think that it's stable. And, the cyber cryptocurrency is rife with illegal activity and money laundering and trafficking, and it's just gross. But the reckless incompetence is what our current government officials need to be tried and convicted for, held in contempt of court. I mean, actually, I think little T needs to be held in contempt of court for not following the judge's rulings. The reckless incompetence applies to him as well as everyone in his cabinet, everybody in the Signal group chat. So we get to look forward to that $30 million lawsuit from Ashley Babbitt's family against the U.S. government that's set for trial in just 4 months in July. Oh, no, actually next year. Sorry. It might be, I think it's July of next year, not this year. I think that's about it. I'm very sad for Ivana, the fate that she suffered. And I would imagine that the current first lady knows that if she steps out of line, the same thing could happen to her, and she could end up in the lawn at Bedminster as well. Thanks for reminding me that, Anna Bees, about Melanoma, that's funny. Exactly. She didn't drive herself into the water. And Peter Thiel, a big billionaire from South Africa, he's a big part of the Heritage Program. Yes, yes, there's some disgusting people, and Mike Johnson is part of that whole thing. I'm sure JD is part of that whole thing. Um, the the Hamburglar douchebag, the one whose head will probably roll. So probably PH initials, and um, is it Mike Waltz? Those will probably be the first two to go. But like I said, they're all going to go down, especially people like Tulsi Gabbard. And I can't even keep up. Um, but I do need to wrap up. A Patsy too with an N instead of a P. He used to own PayPal and maybe still does. I'm not sure. And the big E is making a deal with Visa so that he can control all of your bank account money too. So gives us something to look forward to, in addition to our Social Security and all the other private information on all of us that he's given himself access to. So on that, have a great rest of your day, people. Love and light. It is overwhelming, but it's really good that this crap's blowing up. It's really good that it's blowing up. For that, we can thank them that they outed themselves. I mean, the real bummer would be if all of that crap happened 10, 11 days ago and they hadn't included the editor in chief of the Atlantic magazine, the his initials JG, Jeff Goldberg. So there's speculation that JG might have been, they might have thought that that was actually little T, because he has this like alter ego that he refers to as not himself, to like bolster himself. You know, the way some people in cyberspace have like sock accounts so they can argue with themselves in social media, or they can like bolster each other in social media. Um, little T has that without social media, because he's completely incompetent with anything digital or um, computerized. He doesn't even know the word computerized. Remember when he got into the Tesla and he said, it's all computer. I couldn't drive the Tesla. It's all computer. So, all right, you guys, drink your water, eat your protein and your veggies. Don't forget, have a really lovely rest of your day. And we'll try to meet again mañana. Have a great one. Love and light. Thanks so much for being here, people. And take care. You're the best.